This is Doug. I'm here with Brandon, Haku, and Pope, and today we're talking all about Dead Man's Hand and where it fits right now into the current Malifaux 3rd Edition meta. Welcome back, everybody. This is Doug. I'm here with Brandon. Brandon, say hello.
Hello. I thought you were replaced with evil South Carolina Doug for a minute. Nope. South Carolina Doug? I don't know. I was going to say Texas Doug, but I panicked because I don't think Doug Bowman is evil you.
You know, there's a Doug everywhere.
Is
okay.
there can't be one.
Yeah, there's a lot of Dougs.
Oh my gosh.
Also, here is Pope and Haku. Say hi, guys.
Hi, guys. My name's Doug.
There's multiple in the call. They're multiplying.
Quickly overwhelming. Anyway, today's episode is going to be all about Dead Man's Hand. And the premise of this episode is something that a lot of people have approached me on, both in person and digitally, and asked us to make episodes about. Effectively, what we're looking at right now, and for the duration of this episode, is going to be the Dead Man's Hand releases, and talking about where they fit contextually into the current meta of Malifaux 3rd Edition. It's an interesting conversation because these masters, there's 4 masters that we're going to talk about, and 1 not master. And these were all released at the very beginning of Malifaux 3rd Edition, but they were not for sanctioned play. They were released more as rules given to models that have been from older editions that people really loved. A lot of them are huge fan favorites, but they weren't a very good fit for one reason or another for the inception of Malifaux 3rd Edition. So the developers released what was called Dead Man's Hand. And Dead Man's Hand is a set of rules for these different masters, but they're not really meant to be played at competitive events or in like a Malifaux league at your LGS. And one of the big reasons for that was that they were not balanced initially. They were intentionally very, very, very powerful. And one of the interesting conversation points that has kind of evolved over the many years that Malifaux 3rd Edition has been out, you know, we're about to get into Gaining Grounds 4 now, which sounds crazy to say, and we've had a bunch of major expansions to this game. Malifaux Burns doubled the number of masters in the game by giving every master an alternate mode, and then we had Madness of Malifaux, which has introduced huge amounts of new factions and models. So we're looking at a game that has more than doubled in size relatively since the inception of 3rd Edition. So now the big question that we're going to talk about today is there a place for Dead Man's Hand masters from a power level and a playstyle level that would be acceptable just to bring them into current day Malifaux 3rd Edition? Are some of these models still a little bit too overtuned? You know, what do we think? And as always, we will have a litany of opinions, some of them good, some of them bad, some of them belonging to Brandon, which will probably just be completely weird, but you know, we're going to do it. So we're starting out with Collodi. So we're starting out with Collodi. Brandon, I guess you and Pope both love this guy a shitload. So Brandon, do you and Pope want to give us a little bit of background on who is Collodi? How does he fit into the lore of Malifaux? And what is this guy doing on the tabletop?
Well, I played like 2 games of 2nd Edition, and both of them were with Collodi because he was like my master when Sam was trying to get me in this game a million years ago. But Pope played with him for a generation, so I'm going to defer to him.
All right, awesome. I'm going to do my best on the lore. I'm not the biggest lore guy, but this guy started off as a henchman, I think, in like 1st Edition, right? And he was this cool puppet guy, brought over and given life in Malifaux by magic, and he put on these cool puppet shows for all the kids, and everybody loved him except for the weird part where there's these guys with pitchforks and torches that didn't think dolls should move or talk to people or do things that didn't require puppeteer.
They're just wrong. Those people
exactly. They were entirely wrong. He was persecuted wrongly, and so naturally, in retaliation to the pitchforks and torches, Collodi just murdered all the people who dissented with him and started hating all humans. Right?
Yeah.
So,
which is a reasonable and rational response. And can I just say, same?
Exactly.
I mean, I think Bender said it best, right? From Futurama, kill all humans.
Oh, I thought you were gonna say bite my purple wooden axe.
No, okay. Well, yeah, that would also be a great line. That should be an ability for him.
That should be
Anyway,
it.
so how does he operate on the table, Mr. DARPA? Give us a little bit of a rundown of how this guy is supposed to operate mechanically from a card standpoint.
So there's a good amount of his old identity in second edition kind of implanted on these cards here, but we're just going to talk about what he does here in third, right? So the first thing we got to get over is that he's got these scenes to kind of display the flavor of being the puppeteer, right? He's got a love scene, he's got an action scene, and he's got a soliloquy here. And he attaches one of these scenes during the start phase, gets rid of all of the other ones, and it does a thing when it's attached. It gives him an ability, and it usually adds a trigger or something to one of his other actions, right? So it does 3 things. They're all pretty good. Love scene gives slow, the action scene gives focus, and these are like pulses of conditions to both enemies and friendlies depending on the upgrade. The best ones that you're probably going to be switching between pretty often are going to be the action scene, which gives you the warrior and pulses focus out to all your puppets, and then also gives you kind of like a dinky gun that you'll never use, but it's there. And then probably also the love scene, which pulses out slow to all the enemy models that are engaging puppets. If you have to switch between a new one every time, I believe. Yeah, you have to switch between a new one every time. So if you want to stay on action scene most of the time for the cards back on your attacks, you'll switch to love scene if you get the slow pulse. You'll probably switch to soliloquy if you don't. But anyways, You've got these. You're switching them back and forth. And, the main meat and bones, though, isn't necessarily these scenes, which are really good. But the big meat on your card is in this dangling in the strings, which is a not so, dangerous looking at first, 10-inch attack versus willpower that does 1-2-4 damage. But the kicker is, if it's not a master you're targeting with it, you get to take a free action. So it's an obey that doesn't have a TN slap to it, and it also does damage. So the damage might be a downside if you're doing it to your own guys, where you have no TN, you just flip a card for the formality of it, and then you just take an action with the guy, right? That's really good. But being able to do it to enemies, and then it also gets some triggers for your other upgrades you attach to it, or it just has the native trigger of slow, right? So worst case scenario, you use this on an enemy, you hit with the slow trigger, he walks away, he spends his entire turn walking back. Like that's pretty nuts.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a very strong element of this card. I also think another call out that's interesting is before many other models or masters in the game were available with Armor 2, Collodi was rocking Armor 2 from day 0. I mean, that's a significant thing to have on a 5/5/5 master.
Yeah, it's a really big difference in his previous edition's durability, where he used to be like defense 5, 9 wounds, no real tech other than pushing away. Here he's pretty tanky. He's got the ability to give out, shielded as well. And I think they decided that they want all the puppets to be a bit tankier because, Hinamatsu ended up with Armor 2. They figured he's a puppet, he should have Armor 2, just because cutting through solid wood, I guess, is not the easiest.
Yeah, I think wood is harder to cut through than skin, as a general rule.
So then where do we land on... that's a good overview. Thank you, Mr. Pope, as always. So as a collective, as a group, where do we land on Collodi in modern day 3rd edition Malifaux, post Malifaux burns, post Madness of Malifaux? What are the thoughts of the collective here? I guess, Haku, we'll start with you. What are your thoughts, Mike?
Sure. I think I'm going to take the crazy madness take right now. You could bring back this guy and he might not be the best master in the game right now. I say might because I'll hedge my bets a little bit. The fact that he's killable is the only thing that really brings him down. The other fact that, he mentioned the non-TN obey, but he also just has a obey that you don't even need to flip a card for and gives your guys plus flips. At the same range, it's kind of a little nuts. Summons back his totems, which are kind of just annoying, so you're very willing to just go throw him in there, have him die, and just bring him back later, or even if you tank a bunch of hits with your protected puppet. The downside is it's Neverborn. You don't draw a lot of cards, so even though you have this great obey attack, you still have to win the flips, flip it. They're in concealing, you're stoning or getting plus flips somehow because you're not getting the focus, you're panning out. And there's a reasonable level of just kill it, and because Neverborn doesn't really have like the best models right now, and Puppet itself doesn't have like the greatest crew besides, what you would hire if you mastered Hinamatsu. I think you end up in a spot that's kind of like really good abilities, just not great ways to capitalize on it. And at Current Madness, that's not good enough. You need to draw 20 cards and kill everything. So maybe at Current Madness, but the second things get nerfed, this would easily be the best master one of the best masters in the game.
All right.
Ignoring the other Dead Man's Hand models. Giving shielded and stagger to itself while healing it too. If you really don't kill this guy in one round, though, it's going to be pretty obnoxious because the stagger just falls off. Not even a downside.
Yeah, I agree. All right, thank you for your input, sir. Valuable as always. Brandon, we've come to you for the spiciest, most outlandish takes possible. What do you have for us?
I mean, quite frankly, I think the designers owe it to Neverborn to just immediately release Collodi for play in any Neverborn faction. Because, and like, obviously,
says Brandon, unabashedly not hiding his Collodi tattoo above his heart.
Okay, look. All right, look. You said you weren't going to mention the tattoo, Doug. Really, I think that Neverborn deserves to have the best master in the game for a bit. And like, look,
I actually think you're right.
There's nothing
Bring back
wrong.
Pandora to pre-nerf.
There's nothing wrong with TN-less obeys and flipless self-side obeys that just happen regardless for an AP, and summoning back 2 of your totems that are really annoying for a suitless 6. That, like, there are no problems with this. I don't understand. It makes no sense, and I feel like we need Collodi right now. Collodi is the hero that we don't deserve, that we want, that we need and deserve. He is the hero that we need and deserve as Neverborn, and I think they should immediately release him. Just rip him off that grayish background and put him right back onto purple. And also shout out in the comments below if you want us to do the Puppet tier list, because that's a thing we got to do at some point, right? I
think Castor is the hero that the Neverborn need and deserve. I'm really looking forward to playing Castor, but
as am I. But I really also would like to play my Collodi model that I own, because I totally own one.
Yeah, I didn't know we had matching tattoos.
Nice. Oh yeah. Oh, were you at the convention last year? Oh.
Gentlemen, in the interest of this video not taking 20 million hours, Haku, why don't you give us a rundown of Ramos? Some very quick background on him, and give us an overview of how his card works, generally, and kind of what he does in the game.
All right. Welcome to Ramos, the literal most broken model ever printed to date. This guy is cracked out the wazoo. He could never, ever come back in the way he currently is. And that's saying something. As all people know, Arcs gets the good stuff. Ramos was the previous head of the MNSU. He got kicked out by his underling to, help emancipate black people that were already going to be emancipated because the guild kind of just tricked her. That's my understanding of the lore.
Guild, boo.
Which, actually, that was a plot point I used to be annoyed by, because I'm like, you really don't think the 13-14 amendment would get passed anyways? And then they actually made it kind of the whole point, and tricking her. Either way, talking about the actual card, the most relevant thing is he basically is a summoning engine into himself that, while summoning, does ping AoE damage of irreducible or of non-resistant damage while drawing cards. The base way you're going to play this guy is you can summon a ton of you can summon your totem off of an attack that destroys friendly constructs, and you can also summon about like 10 of these little spiders that also explode when they're killed. You put the 2 of those together, and you basically can take actions that just ping AoE, 3 unresisted damage, draw a card, and then do that again, and then you basically can kill anything that has around 8 life. Which is pretty balanced. And definitely fair, and definitely can come back, because as we know, he doesn't he's just a really good guy. He's just a really good guy. And his totem is probably one of the most broken cards ever printed as well. And the fact that he comes back to life off of the trigger that explodes one of the spiders, so then you can then summon this guy, explode this guy who has demise 2, so you're pinging 4 damage when you kill this guy to draw a card.
That's not his totem.
Oh right, that is the summon. Right, what is his? His totem is the thing.
His
that
His
gives
totem is
fast,
Wrath
right?
It gives
Arachnid.
fast.
Yeah, his
Yeah.
totem just gives fast. I remember.
Yeah, his totem is Brass Arachnid.
Which, as we know, is fair because we've watched Damien and his totem. Except for instead of limiting it to a keyword, you can just give anything fast as long as you pay the cost of their soulstone cost.
You
in
gotta
card.
pay the troll toll.
Which means you probably can't give it to other masters unless you somehow cross hire the Vix. But you know,
Okay, but fast on a master, like I don't know.
that's yeah. That's right. Where see, you put me back in M2E brain, talking about Ramos. So, overall, a lot of really good abilities. The main thing is though, is he's just going to draw a ton of cards, which arcs, kind of want, while killing and pinging unresisted damage in a 2-inch AOE, which is just utterly disgusting. And if you're next to the things you're killing with that, then
You also get to draw a card.
you also get to draw cards. I forgot to mention that the exploding your guy to do damage just doesn't have a range attached to it, so you just need to flip a 4.
Yeah.
It's really weird. Like nothing
It's
about
wild.
this like really makes sense.
You said
And
draw
really good.
a card, but you might draw 2 cards after you kill your own guy, because you have the aura
Yeah.
frontive card to also
yeah,
draw
that's
cards.
what I was saying. If you're
He's so
nearby him,
good.
you'll get an additional card. So yeah,
Ramos
it's every
is so
time
good.
if you're within 6, every time you kill something, you get to draw 2 cards. And then they also slapped on protected construct because I guess when they were making these models, they didn't understand like what defense attacks they want to give him to, so they just gave him like utterly disgusting broken ones. So you draw infinite cards, stand next to these guys who explode when they die, and if you are ever worried about Ramos dying, you can pitch some of your infinite card draw in order to just pass off attacks on models you can summon back with 1 AP.
Yeah. All right.
Neat.
All right. That's super neat.
So the thing that I'm confused about is it's a very controlled to detonation. I wouldn't describe this at all in any way as uncontrolled.
I mean,
No,
you
you
can't,
see, it can
can't
hit
find
Perhaps
Perhaps
an area.
meticulously planned.
You have to spend an AP to do it.
A meticulously planned detonation. Is that the main thing you take
Yes,
issue with, there,
That,
Brandon?
that
I
is
just-
the thing that I take the most umbrage with by a
My-
wide margin.
My
Ooh,
favorite part
umbrage.
about this card is I'm pretty sure someone made this card and they were like, oh, I'm happy. I made Ramos the most broken card ever and it doesn't matter because it's dead main hand, so I really could do whatever I want. Someone's like, oh, we should probably get a bonus action. Like, what bonus action would we do? I just slap field repairs on it. Who cares?
He's
Nice.
really good. So I would venture to say that Ramos would not be okay to be let out of the cage right now, into current day Malifaux 3rd edition.
He's in jail for a reason.
Yeah, he
I,
needs,
I,
he needs
I
to
think
stay
Ramos. I think Ramos, even in a Malifaux Burns, Madness and Malifaux world, I think Ramos still needs to stay in jail right now.
Yeah, no,
versus,
Ramos
like-
is the most utterly disgusting master ever.
Versus like a Collodi, where like Collodi would hit the table, and I would be like, okay, like this is very strong, but
But it is Neverborn, so you're fine.
yeah, like this is like probably fine, like.
But then you're
Not
like, it's
crazy.
Ramos, and also you get as many pass tokens as you want because
Yeah,
you're-
Ramos
Yeah.
is wild.
Playing
Okay.
this guy in Madness Burns would be just
Can I just-
it'd just be
Nah.
hilarious. There's just no
Um,
reason to play the game. You won.
So we're moving on to the worst offender at the end of M2 that I have ever heard horror stories about. He has an M3 rendition that seems far more reasonable now. I can do this guy, Pope. You can do him, Haku. If you want to do him, which one of you guys wants to take Nicodem for a quick breakdown of the card?
I want to
Haku
do
played
it.
him once.
I've played him a lot more than once. I played him a bunch in M2E.
I want to do it.
Do you want to do the
Let
breakdown,
Brandon do
Mr.
it.
Brandon?
No, I
Brandon
don't
wants to
really.
do it.
No,
so
no, I don't want to do it. I just wanted to not be left out. This guy.
Okay,
okay.
fair enough. Gentlemen, which I mean, I'm happy to do
I
it
just
too.
gotta double check
You should do it,
myself
Doug.
on what's the downside of his summon again. I don't remember.
There's
if it's
not
like
one.
anything.
Damn.
There's
damage.
not one.
It's slow. It's slow.
No, it's damage. Isn't it?
So,
Well, after attaching, it gets slow, and then if it's more than 8 away from you, you either must remove a corpse marker within 3 or suffer irreducible damage equal to half its current health, and you drop a corpse marker, which is actually a benefit. And kind of
How
how
is-
it worked.
I'm
back
sorry.
then.
How is that a downside? What?
It's not
Yeah.
really.
It
Okay,
just
like I
makes
said,
more
there
corpse
is no
markers.
downside. There's only upside.
Only upside in this necromancer. All right. I mean, Haku, you are a Rezer player. Why don't you talk about Nicodem? Can you give us a little bit of background on Nicodem in M2, and then kind of how he plays in M3?
Yeah, Nicodem was one of my favorite masters in M2E actually, mostly because the upgrade you slapped on every Rezer back then was called Maniacal Laughter, and the most OP ability on it was Mwahahahahaha. And you just summoned a mindless zombie for every corpse marker. And he made a lot of corpse markers, and you drew cards when he made corpses. And that's not too dissimilar to what he does now. You wanted to correct me, Landon?
No, just groaning because I played against that list and it wasn't good. It wasn't fun.
Yeah. Infinite card draw, infinite soulstone works, and then Kantari worked as an ability where you just walked around and got to carry him around, and it was hilarious. But they had one of the coolest things that Weird's ever done. They had a interactive vote between Nico and Lady J on who would win in a fight in their lore. And Lady J won, much to the disappointment of everything. So Nicodem got murked, and he is currently residing inside of a soulstone, just kind of chilling there. No one, I think at the moment, no one really knows what's happening to that.
Mortimer has it.
Yeah, Mortimer has it, but we don't know if he's coming back or anything. We just know Mortimer currently has his soulstone.
So if you'll recall, Haku, when I was hanging out at your place, I downloaded the Mark II app, and I'm looking up the upgrade that you were talking about, Maniacal Laugh. I'll see if I can find an image that's not just this crappy screenshot. But the ability is literally called, it's Maniacal Laugh. This model gains the following tactical action. Muahahaha.
It's great. It's my favorite. It's my favorite upgrade in the entire game.
It's a cast action 6 with a built-in crow. Target number 13 with a crow. Range pulse 8. Summon one mindless zombie into base contact with each corpse marker in range. Then discard all corpse markers in range. Mindless zombies may not count as corpse markers for this action.
Yeah. So the reason this was so.
But to be fair, hold on. Let's just do it right. Yeah. It was like.
Oh, no. Too many ha's. There's only 3 ha's.
Oh, I did.
There we go. Perfect.
Okay, perfect.
Restrictions leader. One soulstone.
Yeah, so you used to just get Pale Rider's ult on a master, and there was no limit on the number of mindless zombies, so you would actually just have to bring with you like 10 mindless zombies. You'd buy multiple boxes of mindless zombies because you could field that many.
Amazing.
Yeah, this was the horror list that's like you have 20 zombies on the field or something crazy like that.
I think 16 was the record in the actual game I played.
Yeah, it's insane. All right, Haku, what's the deal in M3? We've moved into a slightly more reasonable territory now in Malifaux 3rd Edition, Dead Man's Hand. What's the deal with Nicodem now?
Yeah, so in M3E, he also just has Protected Undead. You don't have the infinite card draw works, though, so it's a little bit more balanced, kind of along with Collodi. Slapping Accomplice on him is also pretty interesting. With a stat 7 willpower, hard to wound. This is a master that's, very tanky. And then he also aids friendly undead models within 6, which... Is there a way to turn yourself undead? I don't remember. I don't think so off the top of my head. Only
it counts as having the zombie keyword, but
yeah,
it doesn't... He's still master living.
Yeah, so he basically has this really nice aura that also buffs all the undead. So because you're passing off your protected the undead, they're going to have a plus to their defense duels that you just handed them. And they're also going to have plus to the attack. So going in on this guy is very dangerous, especially because he has decay, which has always been one of the better actions in the game. But the real thing is he's still just a classic summoner. He can make a corpse marker next to himself while also summoning a mindless zombie. Which it replaces the corpse markers, but still. And then he just has the classic summon mechanic where you can summon any number of zombie minions equal to... you just have to pay the cost of 10 crow.
10 crow minus stat
minus
6. Yeah.
So numbers, it's basically card plus 4 is the number, or card minus 4 is the number of...
zombies you can get.
Yeah, zombies you can get, which honestly can be a lot of them. So
and Vulture is insane if you can keep Vulture alive for Field of Corpses, like fly him around at the end game. Just keep Vulture alive and then like have Field of Corpses produce absurd amount of ski markers for you out of nowhere.
Yeah,
mean, like-
honestly, this would be like one of the most broken double master hires with Seamus. You could do a lot of creating corpses, a lot of drawing cards, a lot of abusing of zombies / undead.
Or a
And,
guild master and then taking out a keyword Dominodorus and then make him undead, right? Or whatever the witch hunter. You could make him undead with guild.
Yeah.
So it's honestly, hot take, could come back right now. I think it would be fine.
You jumped the question. God.
Oh, sorry, my bad.
Kohaku, you're the worst. I mean, no, I'm actually just giving you a bunch. What were you saying? Go ahead.
Yeah, if you look at like what are actually classified as zombies, you don't have the greatest lists in the world, and stuff like flesh constructs, you already have McMorning summoning kind of almost easier. Not really, but kind of. And you're not attaching slow. The great upside is you can generate a ton more corpse markers, because the upgrade that's handed out, while it does give them slow, if they go more than 8 inches away from you, they take half their wounds and damage and then drop a corpse marker. And that's not a downside in some of the lists you can build, where you can make corpse markers into scheme markers, or you just summon more things off the corpse markers. You just keep a pale rider behind your back for a bit, go in, summon 5 mindless zombies, attack with all of them all at once. There's a lot of things you can build around having infinite corpse marker works going off.
Plus, the existence of White Rabbit Co. makes Nicodem. I mean, White Rabbit Co. would be like an always hire for me into Nicodem. Put hats on zombies, have them score points. Seems pretty good.
Yeah. So while you don't have the greatest summoning pool, I think you're still a really worrying master, especially because you can just name mindless zombies and just generate a bunch of them. It's just kind of funny. I don't know how like great it is, but there are enough things that synergize off of like undead models dying or just clogging up lanes and being obnoxious as hell.
Yeah, for the red Joker, you get one allotment of mindless zombies, a whole box of them. Go ahead.
Yeah. And if you have McMorning with you, you can draw cards and create more corpse markers while doing it. But you are gonna use up your corpse markers relatively quickly if you just are summoning mindless zombies. The big thing is honestly probably like dead dandies, maybe guild autopsies, just like other low cost things, just to be obnoxious. Bells, I think, might be one of the better ones. You can get 2 bells.
They're like
and
5
a zombie.
points per.
I don't actually. No, you can really only get like 2 bells.
All right, so the $1 million question, which I think I kind of agree with you, Haku. My opinion here is that Nicodem, in the current state of Malifaux 3rd edition, like going into GG4 effectively, I think he's fine to let out of that Soulstone. The Soulstone that is embedded in the butt plug that Mortimer is carrying around. I think he should just break that thing on the pavement, let him out, be totally fine. I actually think that's fine. Brandon?
Yeah, this actually seems like a fun master to play.
Yeah, I think Nicodem would be fine. I mean, quite frankly, compared to the first two, good lord. Go ham. Bring him back.
All right.
Let's do it.
Yeah, I think so too. All right, on to another huge fan favorite. We're going to talk about Lilith, the other real Nephilim mama. I can talk about it. Brandon, if you want to talk about her, you can talk about her. What do you want to do here?
No, I mean, Lilith seems fine. I don't know. Feel free. I don't want to.
Okay, so I mean, I think the big thing with Lilith here is using Tangling Shadows in combination with the Greatsword attack action, and being able to position herself with Tangled Shadows. I mean, obviously she can use it on any friendly model, but we all kind of agree, right? Tangled Shadows is very similar to Colette 1's ability, right? We agree here, boys? That she can target herself with this?
Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. Cool. So, yeah, I mean, effectively, she's got a very, very strong positioning attack action with Tangled Shadows that bleeds into enabling spamming Greatsword attack. And she does so with gusto and glee. She's got Regeneration 2, which is, like, pretty decent. You love to see unimpeded on a master, especially a move 6 master. That's awesome. Disappear seems okay. I'm not necessarily sure I'm super excited about it, but it seems pretty okay. Black Blood is Black Blood. It's been around for a while. It's good. But I think the real thing that you're doing here with Lilith is you're setting up for like a many, many, many great sword swings that are all going to receive pluses to the damage flip. And then ideally, you can get some card draw out of killing maybe even more than one model with her activation. And then she has Cherub, which is her totem enforcer. He's got a shot that allows coordinated attack, which, shocker, is probably a great swing, a great sword swing. And he flies around, and he's got Dispel Magic, which is actually really useful, I think, to have on a totem. And he has Expert Shot, which is nice because whatever Lilith finds herself wrapped up and engaged with, he can just shoot for triggers and stuff and not have to worry about it. My take on Lilith is that it's actually kind of interesting because with the returned keyword coming out, a bunch of new Nephilim models have been released as well, which would add to Lilith's keyword here. I think the $1 million question is, right, at the end of the day, when we ask ourselves, is it okay to let Lilith out of prison, given the context of where Malifaux 3rd Edition is currently sitting? I'm kind of on the same page as where we were with Nicodem. I think that this model is actually totally fine. And Snapping Plants is very strong. I forgot to talk about, and Startle is also very strong. She's got 2 really good fast actions. Snapping Plants can create a hazardous bubble of hazardous terrain that traps her enemies with her. But yeah. I still think
it's a different bubble than the Hooded Rider. So with her, you can do some really gross stuff where you like a double overlap hazardous terrain and then ping them.
Yeah, this model's all about getting her into position using Tangle Shadows, and then just spamming great sword attacks into stuff, and being a real ass with Snapping Plants active. But like, I honestly think that while strong, this would be totally fine in current day Malifaux to let out of prison. But I guess, Brandon, what do you think? Tell me why I'm wrong. Tell me why I'm right. Tell me why I'm crazy.
I'm in a similar position. I think she's fine. I don't think that definitely she doesn't need to be locked behind. Although I would like to see a rework. Although I think it'd be sort of weird from a lore perspective if we have her just be Nephilim, because a lot of the actually Nephilim models that probably would work for her were she still alive are only returned, like the Urn Bearers and stuff. So I don't know. I think if she comes back, I want her to also have the return keyword. And also, where's our protected Nephilim? Why does every other dead man's hand?
Because if you gave her protected Nephilim, you could hand off claw attacks and mature Nephilim, and that might be too broken.
No, it'd be
What
great.
kind of mom throws her kids in front of the bus? Let's just go with the real question. Nicodem's a dad, that's different.
No, he's a zombie mom.
Yeah, have you not seen the alt sculpt Nicodem? What are you talking about?
Yeah, bro. Elizabeth Bathory.
2 alt sculpt Nicodems actually, because they'd have the alt lady, if Lady J became Nico.
Gentlemen, and I use that term very loosely. We all agree she's fine to release back into the wild.
Yeah,
we all agree.
Yeah, I actually think she'd be a little underwhelming. Just keeping on par with Neverborn.
I think they need to buff her. Yeah, well, all right. Yeah, so perfectly on brand.
They need to buff this dead man's hand.
Like, Nico would be good, but Lilith probably needs a buff before release.
Okay.
I don't know. Snapping Plants is real good.
Okay, fine. But we agree that she should be released back into the wild. We agree that. At least that much. In this current state, it's fine to release her back into the wild.
5/5, 12 wounds. Let her go.
So we are on to the last part of Dead Man's Hand. Ryle Hoffman, the undead brother of Charles Hoffman. So I am going to hand down a little bit of Sam Barrow's knowledge on this one. I'll give you guys his opinion, because we were actually weirdly talking about this model like 2 days ago for some reason, in a conversation that led to this episode. And then I guess I'll let everybody else yell at me about Sam's opinion, and then I will either defend it or not, depending on how I feel. Basically, Sam's take on this guy is that he is a better version of Melissa Core that would be then run alongside Melissa Core and create absurdly powerful shooting list synergy out of Hoffman lists, effectively. That's how Sam sees this model stepping back into, or if it were to step back into, current day Malifaux 3rd Edition. I asked him about it. He said that he thought that the list would be really good, but not necessarily the most broken thing out there. But if you look at this guy's Gatling gun, if you look at the fact that he's a Soulstone user in addition to having, this just gives me Fuhatsu vibes all over again, quite frankly. I mean, obviously it's not the exact same thing, but God, this guy seems really powerful looking at it. And the only bad thing is a move 4. He's size 3, but he has hard to kill. Man, Gatling Gun's insane looking at this thing. He's got creep along, which is great. He's got field repairs with a surge trigger on it. Like, even his melee is good. It has crit strike ram, and he's a soulstone user, so he can buff that up on a 2-3-5 track. It's ruthless. He's got armor. This guy just seems really strong.
He also, I mean, he also has power converter, right? So he can just add suits to any duel he wants.
Yeah, and I don't know. I think this guy maybe is too good. I don't know. He seems really strong. Just to know that you could run this alongside a Melissa Core. Like, Brandon, you've run the Hoffman 2 list a ton, and you've played probably a ton of reps with Core.
I would feel bad playing this model against somebody who did not know what I was doing. That's...
I wouldn't. I'd feel fine.
Yeah.
Look, we all know you're a hard.
We're well aware.
We're well aware.
I think Hoffman needs some love. Give him a free card draw.
With
And then
the
a
Gatling
gun that maybe shoots 3 times. That's perfectly fine. No one's gonna think that that's soapy.
You could shoot even 4 times, right? You could take
Look,
2
this
quick.
guy,
you can shoot
he's not
6
a
times.
ranged model.
You just give
He's
him
a min
fast.
4 melee beater. They wanted to say, what if Peacekeeper, but it had Soulstone Caching Guild?
Yeah, honestly, this guy is. I think this guy is definitely a little overtuned. If you removed quick reflexes, and maybe also removed puncture, could you leave puncture? I don't know.
I think we need to go the other way with it. I think they need to give him run and gun and just print him. Like, let's go.
Yeah, the problem is he's also in guild. Like, if you could only hire this guy in Arcanist, where you don't have tools to just like abuse the hell out of double puncture.
Well, they could.
Maybe
They could just release him. They
fair.
could just release him as Arcanist and then be like, this model can't be hired in guild crews.
Yeah.
You could do that.
Yeah, because he's undead, so the guild wouldn't want him.
Yeah.
When have the guild ever had an undead model?
If you had, if you had good cards, you could just easily guarantee puncture on people for straight damage flips. It can get nasty pretty quickly.
Yeah, this guy's probably needs to stay in timeout.
I'm weirdly mostly excited about Surge though. As an Arcs player, anything that says draw a card, I get hypes for.
Yeah, I would say this guy probably needs to stay in timeout, but not like a strong timeout. It's like a think about what you've done, Ryle, and like maybe around GG 5 or 6 we'll see you. And you can come out and hang out with Nicodem and Lilith. You know,
just change the triggers on his Gatling gun.
Yeah, his Gatling
if you don't change the triggers, then it's broken. But
it's
if you change the triggers on the guns, it's fine.
Sure, yeah, but I mean,
if you bump him down to Enforcer, I think he's fine.
All right, okay. Also a good point, right? If you take away Soulstone usage, that's a big deal.
Yeah, then he only is guaranteed 1 puncture.
Yeah, I think that's a huge deal. That would also be a very easy way to just make this card reasonable. Okay, so we've laughed, we've cried, we've loved, we've lost. We've gone through the entire emotional roller coaster. Quite a spectrum of emotions today, gentlemen. I guess starting with Mr. Pope. Any closing thoughts on what we've talked about today in general, specifically centering around the presence of Dead Man's Hand entities in modern-day Malifaux, specifically GG4 and forward?
I want them to quit with the foreplay and just let me know if Collodi's dead or not.
Your heart yearns for the truth, Pope.
That's it.
Okay. All right. Haku, what do you got for closing thoughts? Any parting words for the people of the internet?
Yeah, I'll give my hottest hot take. Start running Dead Man's Hands tournament. Literally ban Ramos because it's just don't even think about it. Ban Ramos, and then just allow Dead Man's Hand. At worst, Neverborn get to win a couple tournaments for once in their life, and that's kind of cool. At best, you just get to play with some masters who I think are really fun, actually have some interesting designs, but largely I don't think get close to tipping the power until they nerf Madness.
I actually think that that's a very reasonable take, quite frankly. You should not allow Ramos. My dog is pulling a bag of toys that weighs more than her, like a bag of toys that weighs like 80 pounds across the floor because I've refused to play tug with her this whole recording. So
You monster.
just wanted everyone to know. Yep.
God, why do
I think
electrical creations have spark shower? This Ramos is just no one looked at these cards. They just
Don't
wanted to
worry,
have
everything
fun.
he summons has spark shower.
Yeah, it just doesn't
All
make
right.
sense.
Okay, Brandon, you bring
Yeah.
us home.
All right.
Closing thoughts, sir.
Yeah, I mean, look, we have an interesting cadre of models here, right? We have Nicodem, who's probably fine. We have Ramos, who's way too broken. We have Lilith, who probably needs to be buffed, and we have Collodi, who is perfectly balanced and should be released as is. You know, I think that seems reasonable. And then Ramos, who probably, I mean, sorry, Ryle, who needs to be tuned down a bit. I think that these are all really compelling characters, and I think that although it is really important to note that Weird does like to take things into account and make actual story involvement matter. You know, you have characters that are dead and removed from the game, or characters that grow, like I mean, well, Collodi, but I guess also that dumb Bash guy. What's his name? Bashel.
Yeah, Dash.
Yeah, Bashel. Yeah. And you know, and evolve as the editions go on, and that's really good. It's really good for game health, and it's really good for engagement in the lore. So although I'm sad that these models are gone, I think that it's an important point to have them in timeout for a while, and I really don't give a crap what anybody does with anything else. Collodi has to come back. You know, riot in the comments for the puppet tier list. That's what I've got, folks.
So thanks for joining us, guys. Hopefully you guys thought this was youthful. Sorry, I meant to say helpful, but also youthful, I guess. Let us know in the comments what you guys thought. Obviously, people are going to have a huge range of opinions. Some people are going to think we're tracking on the reasonable scale. Some people are going to think we're insane. Like always, let us know. And we're going to make more interesting videos like this one. Not necessarily just all tier lists, although we will continue to do those until someone knocks on our door and forces us to stop. All right. Well, I guess this is it. The internet, it's been real. We'll see you next time. Take it easy.
At least none of them have range 18 pickup AoE scheme markers.